Hi, it's Loren Lockman from the Tanglewood Wellness Center in Costa Rica, and I'm going to be speaking this evening about how to tell when fruit is ripe. So we're going to look at some of the common delicious things we have here, and we'll talk about how you can tell what's good and what's not good, and maybe you'll see a few things you've never seen before, and maybe not. We don't have a tremendous variety of things available to us right now, but I'll show you what we do have. Okay, so let's start with watermelon, because watermelon is something. Would you please hand me one of those watermelons, Robert? In fact, if you would, hand me both of them. We have two watermelons that are not cut yet, and we tend to typically get these this time of year, the dry season here. Soon you will see the long watermelons, the big watermelons everywhere. I still buy these. They're going to be more expensive, but I buy them because we typically won't eat that whole one at one time, where there's a better chance we'll finish this in the course of a few hours, depending on how many people are eating. And so we get fresher food this way. But with these watermelons, and this doesn't work so well with the longer ones, with these watermelons, you can tap them, and it won't tell you how sweet they're going to be. There's no way to tell that from the outside. You have to cut it open and find out. But it can tell you about the consistency. A good, ripe, nice watermelon is going to have a high-pitched sound. So that one's got kind of a dull thud to it. It's probably not the best consistency inside, which is the reason I haven't chosen to cut it open yet. When I went deciding which one to cut for you, I didn't choose this one. It doesn't sound so good. The other one, I think, is going to have a better sound to it. Do you hear the difference? Okay, hopefully you can hear the difference too. This higher pitched sound means better texture inside, typically. Okay, so let's get those watermelons out of the way. Thank you, sir. You got it? All right, now we have cantaloupes as well. Again, we're early in the dry season here, so we're just starting to see some of the melons. The watermelons we can buy, we can get all year long, because there are places in the country that they'll grow when they're not growing here. The cantaloupes, most of the year, they're available all year, but they're really watery most of the time. It's now when they're starting to get good, because we're now a month or so into the dry season. And with the cantaloupe, first of all, how many of you can smell this from where you're sitting? Can you smell it right now? Not yet? No? Go ahead and sniff that. Doesn't it smell good? Pass it to me now. It smells good, doesn't it?
Great.
A ripe cantaloupe should have a nice scent. Now, I didn't hand you the watermelon to smell. Guess why? You can't smell much. It's a hard, solid rind. You're not going to be able to smell much through a watermelon. But through this, when this is ready to eat, it should have a really nice cantaloupe perfume. And that's what this has now. So that's one way to tell. The other thing you want to do is you want to come to this end. This is where the stem was attached. And on the other end, the bottom, right in the center, there should be a little bit of give. Now, can you see how that's giving just a little bit? If it doesn't give like this, it's not going to be ripe when you open it up. Okay? And you do not want to cut these open before they're ripe, because guess what? They're never going to ripen once you do. Okay? So again, this is the stem, this is the other end, and this is where you want to be checking. Okay? So that's a ripe cantaloupe. Let's talk about mangoes. We've got, we really only have a couple varieties right now, maybe only one variety. Now, this can be a little tricky. This one is not ready. It's not quite ready. And ideally, mangoes should be ready, right? I mean, a mango will ripen on the tree and will fall off the tree ready to eat, or virtually ready to eat, okay? This one was picked too early. You can see that by the color, because when they ripen on the tree, they will typically turn orange, yellow, red, whatever it might be. They won't stay this green color. So this will ripen, so to speak. I mean, I'm not sure how much of it is ripening and how much of it is just sort of breaking down. But it will get softer, and it will still probably be very good, but probably not quite as good as one that had a chance to ripen on the tree. Now you can see here are some examples of some beautiful mangoes that are red, yellow, orange, and sometimes there'll be a tiny bit of green. That's fine. Don't worry about that. Okay. What you're looking for ideally is something that's mostly orange, red, or yellow, depending on the mango. And again, two primary things. One, it should smell really good. Smell like the mango you're eating. It should smell like that right through the skin, and it should be soft. Okay. Any fruit, I mean, there are very few fruits that we would eat that are still hard. As things ripen, they tend to get softer. So without bruising this, be careful. Go ahead and see how that one's got some nice give to it. Okay. Smells good, doesn't it? You know, again, if you can't smell it, you probably don't want to eat it. Okay? If it doesn't smell good, it's probably not going to be that exciting inside. All right, you want to give those a feel? There you go. All right. Now we have a couple of different citrus fruits here today. There are many more around that we don't have today, but there's a couple things here that many people probably haven't seen before. Now everyone's probably seen this before. This is a mandarin orange. I believe it's actually in the tangerine family, but it's called a mandarin orange. And with the mandarin, and some of this is practice. I mean, what you're looking for, it can't be hard. If it's hard, it's not going to be ripe, as I was just saying with the mango. But it shouldn't be too spongy. Sometimes the tangerines will get really spongy, and then they're probably not going to have very nice consistency inside. Again, you won't get a tremendous scent most of the time with one of these, but this is going to be, the biggest thing is going to be the texture, how it feels. And again, when these ripen on the tree or almost completely ripen on the tree, they'll be mostly orange. Okay. If they're picked a little early, they're going to be more green. And we have, Robert, in that bag right behind you, that's fine. Actually, let me just grab in there. So, here's one that was probably picked a little too early. Okay. And this will ripen to some extent, but again, it's always best to ripen on the tree. Now there are a few exceptions. I didn't bring an avocado to show you, but you know, Hass avocados, they're one of the few fruits that ripen off the tree. Avocados do not fall off the tree ripe. They fall off the tree still hard, and it's a good thing, because if it wasn't that way, you'd have a bunch of guacamole under your tree. Right? They'd hit the ground and they would all break up. So they fall off the tree still hard, and then they start to ripen. And that's great, because you can pick them up and bring them inside and wait. With the Hass avocado, it should be pretty much uniformly black, you know, very dark color, and it should have a nice give to it. Not too soft, but not hard at all. If it doesn't have some, you know, if it doesn't give with very gentle pressure, it's probably not ready yet. Okay? So we talked about the mandarin, and hand me one of those if you would. I just peeled, no, right there, open. Yeah. So this is the, we're looking at these two mandarin oranges. This is what we're looking at inside. These are nice because the skin comes away very easily. You know, it's clean. It's not, you peel an orange, it can be messy sometimes. This is great for traveling, again, right? People are going home. This is a great thing because it's easy to do. Simple paper towel or napkin, it's no problem. These are, by the way, have been delicious, and usually are. Interestingly, the oranges here are often not as sweet as the tangerines here, and that's because the oranges need cold weather to set the sugar, where the tangerines don't seem to need that. So in Florida, oranges don't grow as well in the most southern part of Florida. Like around Miami, that's not big orange country. Orange country is where, you know? Orange country is up near Orlando, in the center of the state, where it often freezes. It often gets that cold, okay? Not really a tropical fruit. So we can grow oranges here, but they're often not as sweet as we're used to in North America. People here love them. Same thing with grapefruits. I'm like, no thanks. The grapefruits here are pretty acidic most of the time, because it's not really a tropical thing, and so it doesn't do as well. This, some of you have seen before, but you may not. This is called a sweet lime. It's a sweet lime, and it's pretty big for a lime, although there are bigger ones. But what's interesting about this is that unlike most lemons and limes, it has virtually no acid at all. Now the skin of this does not peel quite so easily. In fact, I don't have much there in the way of the fingernail. Let me take a knife to this. The rind does have a very nice smell though. But if you can get into this, it has a very light flesh. It's not green. It's not yellow. Not quite the same color as a typical lemon. But it's in the lime family. And again, smell that. It has almost no acidity. Now, it doesn't have a really strong flavor, but it's sweet. And whether it's actually a lime or not, I don't know. But everybody here in Costa Rica and in Panama calls it a sweet lime. So I don't really know whether that's botanically speaking, if that's the correct classification or not. This is a mandarin lime. And a mandarin lime, well, it looks a little bit more like a native lime. The native limes here are very small, typically round limes, sometimes a little bit bigger. This is bigger than that, and these will get even bigger than this one is. But what's interesting about this, again, this is called a lime, right? But take a look inside. Now my guess is it's called a mandarin lime because of this orange color. It looks very similar to the color of the mandarin orange. It's not an orange. When I first got to Panama, I was at the big produce market in Panama City, and my Spanish was almost non-existent. I was just starting to learn the language, and I'm looking at this. I had no idea what it was. It didn't look like a lime. It didn't look like an orange. I didn't know what it was, and I asked the guy, and he told me it was a mandarin lime. Limon mandarina in Spanish. Limon mandarina. Well, I heard mandarin, and he said, here, and he hands me one. It's a gift, he says. So I'm standing there in front of him, I peel it, I pop it in my mouth, and this is very acidic. Very acidic. There were 3 old men sitting there, laughing their heads off at the silly gringo who was trying to eat a mandarin lime. You don't eat these things, okay? This is used as garnish, or, maybe with some cane juice. It's a nice combination, but no one would eat this thing by itself. I didn't know any better. Okay, let's see. Let's look at the papayas. Again, we have quite a few papayas here, a couple different varieties. There are, by the way, many varieties. In fact, I was talking about mangoes earlier. There are, I think, over 1,000 different varieties of mangoes. There's probably that many papayas, although I have to admit I've probably only seen about a dozen of them. But here we've got papayas that you can see still have a bit of green on them. And like some of the other fruit I've talked about, when these ripen on the tree, they are going to be yellow, orange, red. They're often picked a little earlier than that, and that's okay. And the reason why is because these things are almost impossible to transport if they're ripe. If they're really ripe, they get bruised really easily. So you almost need to get them in this state to get them back in one piece, especially coming up this mountain in a quad the way I drive. I try to take it more gently when I've got fruit in the back. But still, let's see if we can find one. Here's one that's even a little bit more green. And these aren't necessarily going to be bad. I mean, they'll still be very good when they ripen, most of the time. But there's nothing quite like tree ripened fruit, right? So whatever it is, if you can get it ripe off the tree, it's going to be delicious. Looks like we've eaten most of the ripe ones today that we had. Not unusual. So here's an example of one. And again, you'll notice it still has some green. That's not going to change as this ripens because it wasn't able to fully mature on the tree. It's okay. It's still going to be delicious. But what you want with a papaya is you should be able to indent it with very gentle thumb pressure. Okay? Now this one's a little hard. I'm pushing a little harder than I probably would want to. But can you see the little divots there I'm creating? Yes. Okay? You should be able to do that with very gentle thumb pressure. And here's one that where the bottom end, the stem end is actually, got some funny stuff going on. Oh, it's still pretty hard. So yeah, some of these are probably going to be ready by tomorrow because they have all night, by tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. But a lot of them are not quite ready today. Looks like we went through quite a few. This one is going to be the best bet. Okay, and again, this is one that probably came off the tree, having had more time on there. and you can see, and I want each of you to experience that. So go ahead and press that with your thumb. You can put a dent in that without too much pressure, right? Okay, that's exactly what you're looking for. Now, the larger the papaya is, if you go to Mexico, you will find massive papayas in some parts of Mexico. And because they're much larger, it's not going to work as well. This works really well for papayas of this size and a little smaller. But like a Hawaiian papaya, the smaller they get, little strawberry papayas, they need to be really soft. Okay, because there isn't much in the way of skin or rind. But a really large papaya is still going to be relatively hard, not nearly this soft, not so easy to indent when it's ready. Okay, let's take a look at pineapples. And again, I don't know how many pineapples we ate today. We've got about 7 or 8 here, but I think we ate most of the ripe ones earlier today. So I'm not sure if we have one here that's really ripe. This looks like, first glance, it might be the ripest one. And you know, I should say with all of these things, like with the pineapples, there's many varieties. There are some varieties that never lose their green. They stay green. They have some green color all the time, ripe or not ripe. So you can't rely on that so much. Again, two things you can rely on. Let's see if you can guess what they would be. We've talked about them before.
Smell.
Smell. This should have a very nice pineapple smell. It's a little bit subtle still. You know, again, that one's going to be better tomorrow. I think we've eaten the ripest ones we had already. So these have been going fast. But it should have a nice perfume. And there should be a gentle give to it. Okay? Gentle give, right? Shouldn't be too hard. Too hard. Now if you can stick your thumb right through it, it's probably rotten in that area. It's probably damaged or starting to ferment, rot down there. But they should be where, with a little bit of pressure, gentle pressure, it's got some give. And this one does. Again, I would probably not want to cut it yet, but maybe by midday tomorrow, it'll be ready. Okay? There's one more test. You have that one, but with pineapple, the center leaves should be relatively easy to pull out when it's ripe. And I mean, this one was relatively easy, and yet, look how green this still is. So, this is still very hard. And I was saying earlier when we were eating dinner, one of the things about pineapples, it's a little bit challenging, is they ripen from the bottom up. A mango, usually, most of the time, there might be some exceptions, but with most of the mangoes you guys have eaten, when you eat a mango, it's uniformly ripe, right? Not with a pineapple, not so. They ripen from the bottom up, so if the bottom is perfectly ripe, the top is probably going to be a bit unripe, okay? If the top is perfectly ripe, the bottom is likely to be overripe. There'll be parts that are starting to ferment. And it's kind of like every pineapple, there's some compromise involved. You want to eat the pineapple when most of it's ready, most of it's perfect, and some of it's probably going to be garbage in one direction or the other. That's just how it is. Thank you, sir.
I couldn't pull the leaf.
No, it's not. That's right. It's not quite ready.